So, welcome back to the channel, and we are back in the track car, which featured, I don't know, a long time ago now, years ago, probably.
Six years ago.
That's pretty scary, how quickly time passes, but, you know, there's been various things happening to this car along the way that we, you know, probably worthwhile to refilm, but there's one thing particular that's happened in recent weeks that are certainly worth getting on film, so we'll cut straight to the point. It's been supercharged.
Supercharged, yeah.
So it's got a supercharger now. So it's still the 3 litre BMW engine, but and it's still, you know, the same core engine, but you've put a supercharger on it. So if you explain basically what's happened then.
The engine itself can take quite a bit of boost. So it's basically a supercharger bolted on, and it even has the original ECU and everything like that. If you're running low boost, the ECU will adapt and add fueling and compensate. So we've calculated it's running roughly 300, just over 300 horsepower.
Right, okay. And previously it was, what are they?
230.
Right, okay. So
ish, something.
So this is what model year?
2001, an early facelift sport.
Right, so they came with the slightly more powerful, the 3 litre.
So when they facelifted the E39, they changed from the M52 TU to the M54. So the 3 litre engine went from 190 brake horsepower to about 230. 230. I think it's just over 230, something like that.
Yeah, and then hello 70 horsepower then, and probably more torque, I guess, being forced induction.
Yeah. I don't actually know the figure. We don't know the figures because we haven't rolling roaded or anything like that. We've done any track days, or
it's literally been
we've put it on and we're testing it, and we think the car's adapted to basically compensate for the additional air, fuel, everything like that. So it certainly feels a lot faster.
Yeah, and it seems to be running quite nicely. Considering, as you say, it's not been on that long. We're still, you know, you're still testing it.
And it was purchased from Facebook.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Quality mods are.
You know, the first video is titled Budget Track Car, and it's a quirky sort of left field take on a track car. Being that most people would go for a 3 Series or whatever else for some, you know, whatever reason, but it's still got a budget feel in the fact that you found it secondhand on Facebook.
Yeah,
the supercharger, I mean.
Yeah, the car I've owned for 11 years now.
Yeah.
But there are things we did try and do cheaply that didn't work out, like the suspension. We've had to put a second set of coilovers on because we weren't sure where this was going to take us, and so putting £1,000 into a set of coilovers and it not working is not a good idea. So now it's done 11 or 12 track days, right? And we've used it thoroughly. We're starting to now upgrade the things that needed upgrading. It's now running a diff, and it's got the seats. I don't think the seats were in it when we last.
I'm not sure if they were. They might have been, but yeah. So it's got some proper seats in it, which make a huge difference. Actually, they make you feel more than you expect.
Yeah, being held when you're on a track is really important. And
there's no sort of give. They just feel. It makes you feel much more a part of the car. It's surprising how much difference it makes.
Well, we corner weighted the car, and we got a result of about 1,300 kilos.
Which is pretty good, to be fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of weight come out of this car, but it has got things like a lightweight battery, and we've stripped as much of the wiring out as we can, and it's obviously got lighter seats and bits and bobs like that. But including the spare wheel, it's 1,300 kilos.
But that's the thing, like, so much has come out, and more's come out since I was last in it, because it's a lot noisier from the back. I can hear more exhaust when you get going. But it's still actually got quite a bit that, you know, you could go more serious if you were inclined, sort of thing. For instance, you've still got an airbag wheel.
Yeah, actually, we've got a few airbags, driver, passenger, and side airbags, and these curtain airbags.
They're still functional.
Yeah, they're all welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
And the original beige seatbelts. Yeah, that's the last thing from the original car.
So it's like a usable car in many ways, but with all the guff gone, sort of thing.
Like poly bushes for the engine, the control arms, gearbox. A lot of the bushes have been replaced in the gearing, and we've obviously changed the gear throw. To move the fulcrum point, that sort of thing. So it's much more direct. An E39, I don't think was ever really designed to be used on track in any guise. I mean, an M5 is still too heavy, really, to be
I guess so.
used on
an
track.
autobahn crusher, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, bringing the M5 into question, if this car's 1,300 kilos and 300 odd horsepower, I'm not saying it's the car you want to compare to, but it must be getting more exciting in terms of power to weight now,
Yeah, I mean, the M5 obviously being a V8, you've got, I think the subframe's different. It's got a box rather than a rack, and I think those things add up to make the M5 about 1,800 kilos, 1,850, something along those lines. And this, 500 kilos.
That's quite a lot of weight.
It's a chunk, isn't it? The M5 is still, it's in a league of its own. It was designed from the factory to be 400 horsepower.
Car,
so exactly. So the diff and everything like that can cope with it, and it's a classic, isn't it? Whereas this is very much a cheap car that has been modified by a few guys.
But that's what's interesting. So the whole project has been done as affordably as possible in a garage. It's not gone to a tuning company or a
It's not gone anywhere. We've not done anything.
Literally done it all.
It's on our driveway. It's not just us. It's not just us guys. There's another couple of guys that are in on the project who have a good amount of technical know-how. So
that's it. I mean, one in particular, you can't sort of say he knows an awful lot, but
he's lived and breathed this car for a long time. It's his baby, but it's fun. It's a project. It's a hobby, and
as you say, you've done 11 or 12 track days now, which have so far there's no wood left to touch, but it's
well, I wasn't allowed to keep that.
But it's served well. I mean, and it wasn't sort of an immaculate car per se or whatever, which is probably one of the reasons you felt comfortable to take it down this path. But it's done a fair amount of miles now and things like that, and it's still loving life on the track sort of thing, it seems to be.
The interesting thing is, we've in my possession there are 3 E39s, ranging from £70, the Benz 528, my 523, which is, I think I can call that time warp, into this 530, and having taken the top off the rocker to do the rocker gaskets and do the vanos and things like that, this engine, having been thrashed for the last 5, 6, 7 years, is so clean.
Oh really?
It's had oil changes every probably 300 miles with the
track days.
With 300 to 1,000 miles. And in my ownership, when it was my daily, it would have oil changes every 5,000 miles.
Right, okay.
So from 80,000 miles and 7 or 8 years old, it's had oil changes.
So it's had kind of a lot of cleaning additives going through it and things like that.
It's the one thing that I'm very particular about, and that's oil. And it shows. The engine is so clean. It runs really nicely. There's no noises anywhere, top end, bottom end. It starts up cleanly. Nice. There's no rough idle. It's just such a fantastic engine if you look after it.
So it'd be interesting to see how an extra 70 brake treats it. But as you say, it's been done affordably. It's fun. See where it goes. But speaking of which, so. Is this on the original clutch or? No,
clutch was changed at 60,000 miles.
Right, okay.
Previous owner changed it, so it's done a few miles.
Exactly. And it seems to be fine.
It's on its original rear brake discs.
Really?
153,000 miles. The diff is low. We put a different diff in actually, so that is the original.
Yeah, so you changed the gear ratios by changing the diff.
It's from a 525 auto. I forget the ratio. We can put it in the comments section, but it's a shorter ratio, so it will just about do 60 in second now. Whereas before you'd be doing over 70.
Yeah.
So
and presumably that carries on all the way through. So third you'll be at 80 85, 90 or whatever.
Well, really, it will only do about 125 now, whereas
Right.
before it was 150.
Yeah,
Which
okay,
is
so
top
it's,
speed.
yeah, that gives you a clear indication. But as its primary, existence is for track days and a bit of fun, I mean, when do you ever need to do more than a 125 on or whatever? You're not really going to get there on a track anyway, are you?
Every day?
Yeah.
No, obviously you don't need. No, on a track, really, when we get to the straights, we sort of back off. Really,
Yeah.
there's no point for us. It's all about entry, hit the apex, come out the corner nicely. The straights are, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not gonna hustle serious metals. There's no point trying.
Yeah. It sounds brilliant. It sounds really quite old school. You can hear the exhaust because you've lost a lot of the interior, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a good mix, isn't it, of intake and out and exhaust.
But so the exhaust is that completely different, or has it just had some?
So it's the original stainless system,
right,
with the rear silencer moved. The Cat's. So I have to try. We've mixed it around so much.
Okay, yeah.
So we
it's
originally
a bit of a
got rid of the
monster.
Exactly. We originally got rid of the Cats on the downpipe,
Yeah.
but we put them back in because obviously MOTs,
Yeah.
bits and bobs, it wasn't meeting emissions, and because we just had one race cap
Right.
underneath. So I think it's just the rear silencer moved at the moment.
But it sounds quite old school, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there was one time when you taken quite a bit out, and it sounded like an old Jag or something, didn't it?
When we say taken quite a bit out, we drove it without the exhaust.
Oh, well, yeah.
It did. It sounded like an old E-Type.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? It's a strange mix.
But the pickup now, with third
There
gear,
you go.
2,500, it starts to build up.
Yeah. And it gets really strong.
Yeah.
It's a really strong pull from 4,000 up.
The thing I like about it is that it feels like a bigger, naturally aspirated engine.
Yeah.
There's none of that sort of trying to get traction down out of a corner.
Yeah.
It's gentle enough that you can be progressive.
Build up.
And, yeah, exactly.
So, with the Supercharger, you obviously get the whine, which you might be able to hear on film, on camera, I don't know, but it's whining away all the time.
It might need some bearings.
Okay, yeah. But it is a cool sound because you do associate it with the power that's being generated.
Yeah.
It does add something to the experience, so to speak.
We've got to get past the broken Volvo first.
It is probably broken.
I should probably.
He's interested. You can probably hear it whirring. Yeah. It's quick. I mean, it's properly quick now. It was actually fairly quick before, but it is properly quick now.
You have to concentrate now.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just a.
It definitely chews through the gears.
You're right though. You're saying it sounds old school. It does sound like an old BMW.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in a proper, sorted old track car.
Yeah. Like I say, it's been Steve's way of life.
Yeah.
I think he spends a lot of time.
Well, researching and seeing what you can do, and
Yeah, just improving it. And you wouldn't think an executive car from the mid-90s would have such an aftermarket collection of bits and bobs available. But I think people are starting to keep these cars alive.
Yeah.
Because they are so good.
So the E39 is really, genuinely, I think, quite a loved generation amongst sort of BMW enthusiasts and probably a lot of car enthusiasts in general. It was very well appreciated when it came out.
Can I quote?
Yeah.
The best executive car in the world for every year in production. Not my words, the words of Top Gear magazine.
Well, there you go. But yeah, it was a brilliant car, but it's in that crossover point where cars started to become modernised, but they still had a bit of, you know, a bit of driver focus and a bit of analogue, you know.
Yeah, I suppose
the fact that you had manuals, you had naturally aspirated, things like this.
Well, you couldn't in Europe, in the UK, you couldn't buy anything less than 6 cylinders in an E39.
Well, there you go. Then,
you could I think you could in the rest of Europe, you could get a 4-cylinder diesel, but in the UK, I think the slowest E39 you could buy was still a petrol 6-cylinder.
Right.
Which...
It gives you an indication of how different things were.
I mean, it made no sense to go for the smaller engines because they were as bad on fuel, but gutless.
Yeah.
So I mean, this car, when it was my daily, would average at least 30 to the gallon.
Yeah, which
really
is
incredible.
Yeah.
Really. My 523 averages 35.
Yeah.
Only because it's got a manual gearbox, though.
But still, yeah.
But I love that car as much as I love this car,
which is funny
because it's so original.
It's a when you get in it, you're in the 90s.
Yeah.
You're just in the 90s.
I mean, I'm devastated that the original owner spec'd a CD player up front.
Oh.
They'd have paid a fortune for it as well. It's
not a tape player.
It's lovely. Just the originality of it is fantastic, and the thing that I love most about the E39 is you could tell that BMW were really trying to make it so that drivers wanted that over, say, an E-Class or an Audi A6 or whatever. They wanted a car that...
An executive car, but with the driver focus.
Aluminium subframes. The effort they went to reduce unsprung mass and, you know, decent, certainly on the 6 cylinders, giving it a decent amount of steering feel.
Yeah.
It's just a great car.
Yeah.
Not that the E46 isn't.
No, exactly, yeah. But that's what made it sort of slightly a quirky take, and you don't really see many 5 Series on a track day. I mean, have you ever seen one?
No, not on a track day. We've seen some E46s, but a lot of them are, you know, 328s at the end of their life, and people have bought them for 300 quid and want to have a laugh.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And a lot of those are making their way to drift days and things like that as well, being a cheap real drive car.
Yeah. The cars we see a lot of in the BMW world, and rightly so, on track days is E46 M3s.
Yeah.
Often having had a lot of money spent on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're amazing.
When you think that's 340 horsepower and about 1,500 kilos. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, as you say, we're not sort of... That's designed from the factory by M Division, so it's a spectacular car. I mean, I used to own one.
That was
I've
it
got
was the
a lot
right
of love
spec
for
as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got a lot of love for that car. Wish I still had it, but you know, life
COVID.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But so another quick piece about this. So it has got a form of a limited slip diff as well, which is obviously helping with your power.
Yes.
It's got something a locking diff on the back now, so it will help your traction and things.
Really, it needs a full sort of quaif diff.
Yeah.
But really, in the dry, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Because we've got track day tyres on the car.
Yeah.
And really, in the dry, it's not an issue. In the wet, it's almost undrivable now.
So
because it just wants to spin up.
The core things are then weight loss.
Tyres make the biggest difference, really.
Right. Suspension, brakes.
Just pads. Obviously, the fluids and everything have been redone.
Vented discs and things.
Yeah, vented and grooved discs. But we ran it with its standard discs for a long time.
Right.
The brake on the 530, it came with really quite big discs as standard.
Yeah.
I think they're 320mm standard, so they're quite big. We don't ever have any issues with brakes.
Interesting.
On the track.
Yeah.
Probably because we're not very fast, though.
Yeah, but that's the point. I hope I'm not speaking for you too much here, but the project is about having some fun and doing something a little bit different rather than necessarily setting the quickest lap time, or it's not
completely.
It's not in competitive motorsport or anything like that. It's for fun.
So, I mean, the thing that turns me off about the car industry as it sits today is that every manufacturer seems to be chasing figures rather than the feel. Yeah, for me, it's the heel and towing, the getting the entry speed right, and just nailing a corner and enjoying it rather than doing it that quickly.
And things that you're less and less able to do in your modern mode of transport or what have you. Because obviously, families and things, you get subjected to the odd car that isn't something you desperately want to drive. So to be able to have an outlet like this is definitely more appreciated than ever before, sort of thing. I don't know if E39s are starting to go up a little bit, or it certainly will happen.
Yeah, I think.
But you can pick them up, for reasonably.
I think the manuals are starting to thin out a little bit because they didn't. A lot of them are autos anyway. Things like a 540 manual.
Yeah, they're going to be
quite a rare car,
yeah.
but it's probably a bit heavy anyway if you were going to do something like this to it.
Yeah.
But no, there's certainly loads of them left. It's just finding one without rust. That's its problem now. They rust.
They do rust, which is weird because you'd sort of think that they'd be fine with galvanised. I remember people saying, "Oh, from 2000 cars will be fine. They're all galvanised and whatever."
Well, you seem to be alright to buy something like a Peugeot, but not a BMW
from
or a Mercedes.
1989. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no. When was the last time you saw a rusty 306?
Yeah, it's true. Actually, they do seem to be alright. Weirdly. Yeah.
But not if you're going to spend £35,000 on a luxury. No, that will rust.
Oh, and even the E46s, they're starting to get pretty rusty now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Our M3 didn't have any at all, but I don't know if it would do by now, probably, unless it's been treated.
You'd try and avoid driving it in salty conditions, wouldn't you?
So you have actually replaced a rear panel on this, but once again that was done...
Yeah, so we cut the rear panel out of a scrapped car.
It was clean.
Weirdly, the pre-facelift seemed to rust less than the facelifts.
Right.
Don't know why. So probably cheapening as they go through the production life. So we cut the rear panel out. We paid £30 for that. Welded it in. Sprayed it. Yeah.
But I mean, that's what's interesting. Some cars, as they go along in the development cycle, you want the last possible because that's where they worked out all the problems and they fixed them all. And some cars, it's actually where they ended up making their build process more affordable. So the early cars are actually slightly better built in some ways.
There are certain differences you can notice from the off, like my pre-facelift has got metal door handles on the outside. These are plastic.
Oh, okay.
I don't know whether that was done for weight or cost. I don't know.
But
there are differences. They're quite subtle, but there are quite a few differences.
There's quirks to it all.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got the race pulls now. You pay a lot of money at Porsche for this.
Yep. And relocated the climate control and put the hazards so they're easy to get to. Oh, yes. There's a button missing, but that's an E39 thing.
Has it actually got aircon still? Or?
Yeah.
Does it?
It's very good.
So it's actually full-on climate control. Dual zone.
Dual zone.
Auto wipers. In your track car. But I mean, aside from maybe getting a couple of other pulls, if we get a clearer stretch of road, I think we sort of covered most about this car. If you've got any questions, fire them in the comments and we'll do our best to answer.
Yeah, Steve will do his best to answer.
Yeah, exactly. I'll ask them, basically. But I think as I say, I think that's pretty much it. We'll try and get a few more pulls because you've got to hear it. I've tried to get some shots outside because it sounds amazing as well. Like I say, quite a balance between intake and exhaust as well.
I've not heard it, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you filmed.
Yeah, it's funny. I said there's a few pops, and you were like, "Is there?"
Steve did say the map that we loaded on, which came with the charger. He just loaded it through the BMW. I don't know what he calls it. He does all that. Yeah. He said it is mapped to pop and bang, but it certainly isn't very loud. Yeah. But it does do it.
Yeah. Did that on my...
It's traction control.
So it does actually come in, it's got working traction control. That's one thing we'll add. Yeah. This feels more like dynamic. There you go.
Yeah.
So this is more dynamic to start with.
Oh yeah.
It does pop. You're hearing a bit more now.
It's...
Yeah, maybe we'll see. There you go.
Wait till I'm straight.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of clutch slip now. I'll let you know if I ever get it right.
Yeah, so thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.